Hey y'all, Boogie Night here. How's it going? Now, in my personal opinion, there are three types of horror movies out there. Number one are the atmospheric horror movies, my personal favorite. And you know what I'm talking about. Those are the movies that leave you on the edge of your seat, genuinely perturbed and unnerved, and kind of looking around, wondering what's going to happen in the next 30 seconds. And examples like that consist of, in my opinion, once again, of Suspiria, Angel Heart, more recently Don't Breathe, or James Wan's Conjuring 1 and Conjuring 2. Category number 2 are what I call the big what movies. And those are the horror movies that basically leave you scratching your head. They've done more harm than good, more questions than answers, but you kind of tolerate them. And movies like that would be Serpent and the Rainbow, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, or Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. And category number 3, my least favorite, are what I call the Gorefest horror films. And I don't really think I need to go into reasons why they're called Gorefest films. But if you want examples of flicks like that, look at anything Eli Roth has done, such as the Hostel series. Or if you want to go back older times, I would think of maybe Clive Barker's Hellraiser, which was a good movie for a Gorefest film. Or anything David Cronenberg has put out, Scanners, Videodrome, that kind of thing. Now, the movie I watched the other day definitely fits into the Gorefest genre. And I'm talking about the one and only Cannibal Holocaust. Go on, take a second, let just the title sink in for a moment. Now, Cannibal Holocaust was a 1980 highly controversial cannibal exploitation horror movie directed by Ruggero Deodata. And I apologize in advance if I slaughtered his name. Italian is not my first or second language. Slaughtered, you see what I did there? How controversial, you might ask? Well, not only did this movie get slapped with animal cruelty, which I'll get into when I talk about the effects, but he was arrested and charged by the local magistrate with obscenity because it was so graphic and intense that people thought they were watching a genuine snuff film. Now, you're probably wondering why, if I don't like Gorefest films, why did I watch this movie? Well, two reasons really, but the big reason is while I hate Gorefest movies in general, I have to respect this movie because not only was it the forerunner for modern day Gorefest films, such as Green Inferno, or like I said, the Hostel series, but it was also one of the forerunners for found footage films. So if it wasn't for this movie, I highly doubt the ever-acclaimed Blair Witch Project would have gotten the kind of design that it had, and ergo, the kind of hype that it did. Because I don't think there really were too many, if at all, found footage films before this movie came out. Now, sure, there were POV movies out there, but nothing really with you taking a video camera and doing this kind of thing. So I really do have to respect Ruggero Deodata for kind of pushing the envelope in that direction. Because days like that, you really didn't have something that much of a breakthrough. And I'm saying that, like I said, out of respect, even though I will never watch this movie again. And also, I wanted to see just how bad this movie was, because Cannibal Holocaust has gotten so much hype from both sides. It's got quite the cult following for the horror lovers. But of course, like I said, it's a gore fest. And you really need to take it as that. Now, the other reason why I did watch this movie and decided to review it is because back in late September, I actually posted a poll to Twitter asking if I should review this movie. And it came out 2-1, and I'm pretty sure the two people that did vote yes to make me suffer, as the category said, were probably Mr. Vlog Watcher and Bacanari. I could be wrong. Who knows? I don't mind. So here we go about this movie. Don't ever watch it. I mean, it's not worth seeing. I mean, if you really feel the need to do so, it's on YouTube for free. I think you can probably watch it on Amazon Video for like $3 or something like that. Now, did this movie scare me? Not really scare me. It disturbed the hell out of me. But not because the graphics, yes, they did make me wince in some scenes, but it was more along the lines of the depravity of human life and just the human character that really just made me go, good God almighty. And I'm actually going to start with the character analysis. because all the characters in this movie were just pieces of garbage. The only person in this movie I genuinely respected was the anthropologist. And I will go into the plot later on about it, just kind of in a nutshell and tell you what it's about. But it's just, I had no respect for any of the main characters. And I guess the civilized characters, because Cannibal Holocaust goes into South American tribes, which I'll talk about in a bit. But like Four Flies on Grey Velvet or Blood and Black Lace, how far can you go just to achieve the ends of the final product that you want? And I see where they talked about it being a snuff film, because there are scenes of gang rape. Several types of gang rape. There are scenes with a woman getting raped with a gigantic sharp rock. And in one scene towards the end, during the gang rape scene, the second gang rape scene, because there's one that happened moments beforehand, one of the main characters of the film directing, and of course I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'll get into that momentarily, is filming it. He is filming his girlfriend getting gang raped. How reprehensible is that? Even in the 1980s, I'm just like, I can't watch this. Yes, it was breakthrough at this time, and I know that's probably a dime a dozen for most horror films in today's day and age, but that one genuinely sickened me, because I really just wanted to kind of go through the computer screen and just bash him into next year with a blunt object. Now, maybe I just feel too much. I don't know. It could just be me. But in the first act, you had a general kind of sense of respect for the anthropologist and his guides as they go into the undergrowth to try and track down the missing filmmakers. But that's just because they respected what they were getting themselves into, and they kind of understood the lay of the land. But when you get to the second half of the movie, when it really takes off, I'm just like, you know what? I've seen everything there is to see right now. I could just turn this movie off if I wanted to. But I kept watching. There really isn't much to talk about camera-wise. It's your standard 1980s movie. Really not much. I mean, there were a couple scenes that generally kind of just made me go, But other than that, there really isn't much to talk about camera-wise. The one thing I will say this is the camera's not concerned with getting close-ups of the people. I mean, and there's times when there'll be a tribesman sneaking around in the underbrush, and he gets right up there in front of the camera. Like, it's like fisheye. And this is early in the movie when you are still trying to figure out what's happening, and it's too close for comfort, in my opinion. Now, but that, of course, gives in rise to the effects of this movie, and that's what genuinely sickened me. Not to the point of nausea, but just how it's done. I talked about earlier in this review about animal cruelty. Because the animals that were killed in this movie were not already dead. They were still alive. There is a scene of a turtle getting killed, and it's making noises, it's thrashing about, and you have the film crew cutting its fins off, slicing it down the middle. Yeah, that thing was actually alive when this movie was shot, and they actually had limited number of live props for this movie. There were pigs getting killed. The special effects were obviously realistic because they actually happened. And you had camera people getting sick and throwing up. You had actors that looked genuinely perturbed because they were grossed out by the scenes. But since they had limited live props, they had to keep going with it. Which could be said it was really well done because it was a genuine reaction of the public. So, good on you, dude. But I mean, you had scenes of a woman impaled on a wooden stick, and the spike has gone through her anus and out her mouth, which is kind of I wouldn't say the flagship, but the most common effect you see in that movie. And for a 1980s movie, which I've seen plenty of 1980s horror movies, such as, like I said, Hellraiser, John Carpenter's The Thing, Scanners, David Cronenberg flicks, that kind of thing. This was probably about as realistic as they come, for a 1980s horror film, let alone a cannibal exploitation film. And there are also scenes of them skinning dead animals, and there's a scene with the anthropologist taking a bite out of a heart. And that stuff looked very real. It was very muscular, and I wouldn't even put it past the directors that was not just a prop, that was a real thing. And that's what really sets this movie apart from the other horror movies. Not just other modern-day horror movies, but 80s and 70s and maybe even giallo movies, because of the amounts of great lengths that they took for this film. And once again, the depravity of this was really what got me. I mean, there's no direct scenes of the gang rapes, but it's, well, okay, I take it back. You do see scenes of it looking like they're being gang raped, and it's very real. You don't actually see the element of it per se, but just the whole thing right there, the whole concept, it just makes you feel dirty. Like, oh my, it made me feel several times that I felt like I was watching a snuff film. Now, there wasn't really too much to talk about regarding the music. There was some stock footage in the beginning, and it plays 2 or 3 times throughout that, but to add to the unnerving effects of this film, there is this kind of 1 or 2 note fade in, fade out that just is recurring elements of that. And that ties into some of the special close-up effects, or maybe some of the scenes when they're skinning the rabbit, or there's scenes when things are happening like that. I mean, that kind of thing was definitely kept me kind of just, it didn't make the movie boring. That was for damn fact. So, before I go into the plot, there is one more thing that popped into my head regarding how much I found the characters were despicable. I now realize how much Eli Roth was inspired by this movie. Not only did he do, I wouldn't even call it a spiritual successor or even a sequel, but kind of a homage to Cannibal Holocaust when he did a movie called The Green Inferno, which came out recently. I see now why Eli Roth has such despicable characters in all of his movies, from Hostel to Green Inferno to some of his other flicks, because it was such an inspiration from Cannibal Holocaust. I mean, hell, The Green Inferno was a direct title taken from a couple of lines at the beginning of Cannibal Holocaust. That doesn't make Eli Roth any better. In fact, it makes him even worse. I mean, I get it. Imitation is the best form of flattery, but this isn't about Eli Roth. I despise him as a director. He's the modern-day Andreas Schnaas. But I digress. So, in Cannibal Holocaust, it starts out with a group of filmmakers from NYU going off into very other highly controversial movies, supposed documentaries about things like, they're so-called The Last Road Out of Hell, and then they were going to do a movie called The Green Inferno, about the cannibal tribes within South America. The names, I'm going to slaughter the names, so I'm just going to say 2 out of the 3, because there were 3 tribes. There was the Yanomamo, which is kind of a playful-on version of the Yanomami tribe, which I find hilarious, because the Yanomami tribe in South America were not cannibals. They were omnivores. They were hunters and gatherers. And another tribe called the Yankumo tribe, which you get a little more footage of in the beginning of the movie. They disappear. So it's up to an anthropologist, a very widely acclaimed anthropologist, to try and track down where they went. So he flies into the rainforests of South America, links up with, not a bounty hunter per se, but definitely kind of a bodyguard, and they actually have captured a Yakumo child, who eventually leads them to the Yakumo tribe. And this is why I say I respect the first half of the movie, because they were genuinely respectful of the tribe. I'm not going to say they were very respectful, but there was a genuine understanding of how the tribe functioned. And the anthropologist took great lengths not to disturb their rituals or what they were, who they were as tribes. I mean, well, then again, as an anthropologist, you want to make sure you don't disturb the footage. They go on, later on, they find the Yanomamo tribe and the 3rd tribe whose name doesn't ring a bell. And after making friends with them, so to speak, they found the footage of the missing filmmakers on their mutilated and skeletal corpses. So he took the footage back over to New York and they analyzed it. They watched the raw, uncut footage, and this is where the movie really hits the road. This is when you find how big of pieces of shit the characters were and the great lengths they took to try and get their footage. First of all, the director of the local news channel that was supposed to air the footage says that Last Road to Hell was actually mostly staged in order to capture just the drama of the situation. You're about to get raw and cut footage here, folks. First of all, like I said, they're assholes. I mean, they're hiking for days in the rainforest, and the director, I think his name was Alan, didn't have a care in the world for his filmmates. They were sick, they were dehydrated. He's like, nope, keep pushing. There's a scene where Alan's girlfriend walks out of the bathroom completely naked, and he's filming her, and he's like, oh, ha, 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 ha. I mean, I don't get it. That's just me, though. Anywho, long story short, they go to the Yanomamo tribe and to try and capture the depravity, quote-unquote, of the tribe, even though the tribe had nothing to do with it. They set a hut on fire with the tribe's people inside. To say how brutal the tribe's people were. They also gang rape a local tribe's woman while Alan films, and they say this is also some of the depravity and how grotesque the tribe was, even though it was the own filmmakers that did it. Later on, they find the woman impaled the titular throat-to-anus shot of the woman because she was no longer a virgin. So the tribe retaliates, and they gang rape Alan's girlfriend, and they also kill her with a rock afterwards. And Alan's filming this the whole time. Does he go in to save her? No! He decides, hey, I'm going to get the footage. And afterwards, and the tribe turns on them, they think, wait a minute, we should run. Spoiler alert, nobody survives. Luckily, the anthropologist was smart enough to burn the footage and destroy it and not air it. This, of course, is ambiguous whether they just don't want to show how bad the film actually was, to show off how grotesque everything was, or out of respect for the tribes. I don't know. It's left up to thought process. And that's where I pass the question on to y'all. For those of y'all that have seen this movie, once again, I don't encourage you to go see this movie at all. This was to satisfy my sick curiosity, as well as satisfy the Twitter post. For a Gorefest film, like I said, I respect it, and they definitely took more than a few creative liberties, which I also respect about. But that doesn't make this movie any less hideous. But with that being said, this is going to be the last horror movie that I'm going to review for a while. Not because I'm tired of horror movies, but this is because this is my 7th horror movie in a row that I reviewed, including all the Giallo movies that I've done since July. And there'll be some more of a variety coming up. But let me know what you guys think. Even if you just look at the Wikipedia article or look at the still shots, let me know what you think. But with that being said, y'all have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch you in the flip side, alright? Peace.